You're listening to the Balanced Educator Podcast, episode number 97. Welcome to the Balanced Educator. We're your hosts, Kaylee
and Josiane from Educalme. Our intention is to equip and empower you to feel more calm, balanced, and joyful in all aspects of your life.
Hello there and welcome. We're so excited to have you here today. So teaching is such an interesting job in the sense that you're surrounded by other humans all day long, but somehow it can feel really isolating. You're alone in your classroom with kids all the time, and often you don't really have that much time to connect with other adults, and probably not as much time as you would like to collaborate with other teachers, to talk to them about what's going on in their classrooms, what's working, what isn't. So we wanted to bring to you today an awesome teacher, Sara, who's been using Educalme Classroom in her classroom to chat about how she's using it. It can be so helpful to just hear the ideas of other teachers, hear what they're doing in their classrooms, the little tricks that are making things work for them, and then bring those ideas and try them out in our own classrooms. Before we get into this awesome interview with Sara, we want to talk about today's sponsor, which is Breathe for Change. If you care deeply about wellness, equity, and social-emotional learning, and you want to gain tools to enhance your own and your students' well-being, then you have to check out Breathe for Change. Breathe for Change is a movement to enhance the health and well-being of teachers, students, and entire school communities. They offer the world's only 200-hour wellness, SEL, and yoga teacher training specifically for educators. And they partner with schools, districts, and organizations to enhance community-wide well-being. If you haven't already listened to episode number 88 of our podcast, where I interviewed Dr. Ilana Nankin, the founder of Breathe for Change, you definitely have to go give it a listen. Her story is so inspiring, and it's going to make you want to check out their 200-hour yoga teacher training for teachers. So applications for 2020 are now open. Through the training, you'll be equipped and empowered to enhance your own well-being and integrate mindfulness and social-emotional learning into your classroom and community. Upon graduating their flagship training, you'll be eligible to receive 2 certifications: the internationally recognized Yoga Alliance 200-hour yoga teacher certification and Breathe for Change's Wellness Champion certification. If you're committed to using wellness as a vehicle for social change and want to join an incredible community of thousands of like-minded leaders, then join the Breathe for Change movement and check out the trainings near you at www.breatheforchange.com/balanced. Again, that's breatheforchange.com/balanced. All right, we are so excited to bring you today's interview with Sara. Get ready to be inspired and have so many ideas to bring back to your classroom. Hello there, Sara. Thanks so much for being here with us today.
Yay, I'm very excited to be here.
Can you introduce yourself to our audience?
So my name is Sara Tham, and I work as a grade 2 French Immersion Classroom teacher in Winnipeg. And this is my 4th year in grade 2. And my goal just as a teacher, kind of like my philosophy or my way of kind of approaching things, is just to provide all students with an inclusive and caring learning community that promotes well-being, risk-taking, and growth.
I love that. Why do you think that well-being is so important to you? Why is that one of your values?
Well-being is important to me in my personal life, just to take care of myself so I can be the best teacher, person for people in my life. And I think that it's important that students get to see a model of that, but also that they get a chance to practice that in their lives as students and as friends and as children. And I think that when you take care of yourself as a person, then you're ready to take on any sort of challenge. And there's so many challenges that come in learning and the school So it's a great way to just see the child for everything that they are.
That's so great. And you also said that risk taking is part of your philosophy. That's really cool. I think that's something that's like more and more teachers are starting to use that kind of vocabulary. I'd love to know why that's something that you include as kind of your educational philosophy.
So risk taking for me, especially I would teach in French immersion. So risk taking is huge in a French immersion context because to communicate in any sort of way, you have to kind of go out of your comfort zone, use new words, use different strategies, use gestures, all these different ways of communicating. And another thing related to risk taking, I suppose, kind of a way of persevering and continuing, even though it's hard, even though you don't understand. And I know for me, when I was learning French, that was a huge part of my learning journey. So I know that if it worked for me, it's possible that it can work for these little ones as well.
That's awesome. I love how you've talked about how it's important for you first, and then you're kind of a model for that. I think that's so important. So I'd love to know now, why did you decide to teach mindfulness in your classroom?
So I saw in my students that they would benefit from a way of just slowing down, being aware of where they're at, what they're feeling. So that way, if there is anything that's kind of getting in the way of where they want to be in their learning, that we can address that and help them. And then we'll be able to move into learning, hopefully a little bit more smoothly, and then teach them some strategies that way they can do it on their own. Looking back, being a young person, I think I would have benefited from learning some of these strategies in a formal way. And if I can provide that to them, then I think that would be a great way to do it.
That's so great. I love that. So I'd love to know now how you went from like, mindfulness, that would be something that I'd like to include in the classroom, to actually teaching it. What was that? What were the steps that you took to go from just thinking about it to actually making it happen in your classroom? And maybe talk about any of the hurdles you might have encountered in that process.
Okay, so when I first started teaching at the school I'm at now, I knew that there was something needed. I knew that there was something that I wanted to deliver to my class to meet their social emotional needs and to help them with their learning behaviors. For me, I knew it was something I had to kind of get on top of and figure out. I didn't really know how. So I remember at the beginning, and it was a new practice for me too, even just like in my personal life. So it seemed just very different to me, and I wasn't quite sure what I was getting into, but I had some great colleagues that really showed me what they were doing, and I was able to learn a lot from people around me, which was very helpful. And then just by doing more reading, checking out resources online, there's a whole bunch of different things that I used along the way. And just by working with by seeing other colleagues, that was one way. So having them model for me and them share their positive experience was one. By just checking out resources, looking around, seeing what I could do, what I felt comfortable with, what would fit with my style, what would fit with the needs of the children in my class. And then for me to even just knowing about it for my personal life, what benefits could it bring for me? And like we talked about, you're a model for the students, which is, a lot of responsibility, but also brings a lot of power. And if you can model that for them, so even just looking into a practice myself, what that looked like for me and learning more. And I'm still in a state of learning. I have no means mastered this at all, but just learning more. So I would say those three things were what brought me to taking mindfulness into the classroom and implementing it regularly.
Nice. So now you use Educalme Classroom. Can you tell me what it was about Educalme Classroom that made you decide that this was the resource you were going to use moving forward?
So many things. It's been really great. I love that it's made by teachers, for teachers. It just completely, the program really takes into account what teachers doing on a daily basis, how to implement in their classroom in an effective way. So I feel that reading the program, reading the lesson plans and the audios and everything, I feel like it has that teacher voice and that teacher perspective, which some other resources are don't have as much, although there's benefits to all the different programming. I would say that I love having the audios ready to go. As someone who's still learning about mindfulness, to lead students through a mindfulness experience or a session, a practice, just from my own top of my brain, something I've written was very daunting. So being able to press play and know that there are people who are trained, people who knew how to structure things, knew how to prepare children for the practice, that was very helpful. I really enjoyed the visuals as well. So having the posters that go along, I like to have those up on the smartboard. When the students, and we do our mindfulness practice right after lunch. So when the students come in after lunch, I like to have the poster or the visual up for them. So that way they're starting to think about it. They're getting prepared for the practice. They come to the carpet and we're ready to discuss. So I loved having the visual. I've used the gratitude booklets as a way for different seasons to practice the gratitude. The other thing that I really liked about Educalme was having the units about different pieces. So having pieces about emotions, about growth mindset. I liked that you're pulling in from all these different ideas and ways of approaching the learning behaviors. So I thought that, it covers so many things. It's great.
Thank you. It's always nice to hear what it is that teachers appreciate about the program, because we do have a lot of pieces in there. We have the audios, we have the lesson plans, just so that the teacher knows like what's coming up in that unit. We have the student reflection booklets, we have posters, and oftentimes we have like additional activities and kind of bonus materials that you can use. So every single teacher uses it a little bit differently. So it's always fun to hear how each teacher's using it and which units they're really drawn to. So can you walk us through, now you touched on this a little bit, but can you walk us through what does the routine look like for Educalme Classroom in your classroom? And this is your second year using it now. So maybe if you can even speak to how you start at the beginning of the year and how that routine transforms throughout the year as students get more used to the routine.
Absolutely. So at the beginning of the year, we start by creating together as a class our criteria. So what is mindfulness? How are we going to do this mindfulness thing that we're talking about? And why do we do this mindfulness? So we create this criteria at the beginning of the year. I did that this year with my class. We created the criteria right at the beginning. We started mindfulness right, if not day one, like in that first week of school. We started with the 2-minute audios. So I am a huge fan of the 2-minute audios, especially for students who are new to the practice. 5 minutes at the beginning can feel a little bit long to them. So I love starting with the 2-minute practice. As well, being in grade 2, I actually heard from another teacher that you had on the podcast a while ago about repeating the same audio for a few days. So I do that as well. I like it because it gives the students more time to think and reflect and kind of settle into the ideas, especially if there's some imagining that they're doing, some visualization that helps them to visualize it in different ways or to go a little bit deeper. So I do mine always after lunch. The reason that I do that is that I keep as a French immersion teacher, we do our French time in the morning. And in the afternoon, we have our English time. So it's the first thing we do. It's also a great reset for right after lunch. So we come to our carpet. We started off doing it just all seated on the carpet, either just facing one way. We've done it in a circle. I've worked up throughout the year where students will try it at their desks, where students, as a reward, last year, we had our mindfulness practice where we sat on our desks, and that was very exciting for them.
That must have been so fun for them.
They loved that. And it was, just as a reward. And now we have it at the point where they can choose where they want to sit, having followed all the behavior expectations for seating arrangements and such. So they get to choose where they get to sit. We do our audio. The students come back, and oftentimes we have a quick little sharing circle after, or just a free share if you want to share. And during that time, students can share one feeling that they had during the practice, or how they're feeling right now, something that came up for them. It's pretty open. At the beginning of the year, as we're working through that sharing circle time, it was also a great time for us to check back with our criteria and see if we were following exactly what we needed to be doing. So for some students where this was a new practice, staying quiet the whole time, not whispering to a friend, moving your body in kind of a noisy way. Those were things that would actually come up with in our circle, and we would talk about, does this meet the criteria? Does this not? The how piece of it. And then it was great because the students actually got to share why, like what worked for them or what didn't based on the behavior of all the students. So we were kind of managing it all and learning all together, which was great. And I remember this year, the first day where we all followed the criteria, was good. And I remember this one student after, she said, I got the practice I've always wanted.
Oh my God, that's so cute.
As if she was just waiting for this moment of total serenity. It was a really great moment. And then all the other students understood, wow, this is really important for the students who are using. So even if it's not resonating with them at that moment, they know it's important for their peers, which is super cool. And the last piece about that is last year, we redid our criteria near the end of the year. And it was so interesting to compare beginning of the year criteria where it's, you're quiet, you're calm, you're not talking, and why we do it being very basic in the way that, we do it to calm down or to prepare for learning. And then later in the year to see some of the more advanced criteria, to be present, to be aware of emotions, to understand how we're feeling, to learn about others' emotions. And the why piece, managing flashbacks, bringing our body back to calm, all these really deep things. So it was great to see the growth. That was really special.
That's amazing. And especially such deep understanding with grade 2 students. They're so young for them to be able to recognize the importance of this practice in such a deep way by the end of the year. That's really cool. That's so special.
Yes.
That's great. So I just want to mention to our listeners now, because you explained the steps of your routine, you really followed kind of the outline that we suggest in our free training video, which you get when you sign up for our free trial. So for those listening, if you're thinking wait, what were those steps again? Don't worry, we've got you covered for exactly how to set this up in your classroom. So when you go to educalme.com, you can sign up for the free trial, and then we have a training video in there for you so that you know exactly what to do. So my next question for you is, what is your favorite unit in Educalme Classroom and how did you use it?
I think my favorite unit right now is the one that we just did, which is on emotions. And I really liked that one because it had all these different visualizations of emotions. Most, I think, were related to nature. So the students could really visualize them. And we looked with each, so we did one for every week. So there was one about the ocean. There's one about a turtle. And what we did was we looked at different photos of that nature piece for that week too, to kind of help inspire them and get them thinking. And having that visualization was really great. And the students were able to kind of pretend they were, that turtle and think about how they could apply it to their lives as well, which was really great. So yeah, just that is so applicable for them.
That's great. I find that the younger, all ages really like that unit. I find a lot of people are really drawn to that unit. There's some sort of deep connection with that comparison to nature. So we talk about how you're the ocean and your emotions are like the waves in the ocean. You can watch them come and go, or you're the tree and your emotions are like the wind blowing through the leaves and you can just experience them coming and going. There's a lot that connect really well to that. And then the story of the turtle walks the students through imagining this turtle that encounters these different challenges and then breathes through and then is able to solve that challenge by being calm. So I grade 1 and 2 love the turtle for sure. So how has doing the Educalme Classroom audios and using this stuff in the program, how has that translated or maybe changed a little bit your teaching? So maybe your teaching or your classroom management, is there anything that you've changed since doing this program?
Yeah, definitely. So there's a few things. I think overall, just as an kind of an all-encompassing catch-all, is that by including this practice in our day for the students, I also find myself benefiting from it, being able to slow down, prepare for the afternoon, take a moment even for myself, although I'm watching and supervising, but also, and I found that helpful. So I think just overall as a practice, it has helped me to slow down, to be aware of where I'm at, aware of where the students are. I heard someone say that the teacher is the weather in the classroom, and just thinking about how if you are aware of yourself in your teaching, then you can be more present with the students. So that's just something kind of overall. In terms of how it's changed my style, so a few different things. I know one thing that another colleague had inspired me on was having a calm corner. And one thing we have in our calm corner in our classroom is we have a binder with a list of different strategies. There's think sheets and apology notes, just anything you would need when you're kind of in an intense space. And we have some posters in there of where students can access the breathing strategies on a regular basis. So even just having something available and creating that independence. So I'm managing them less, perhaps, and they're able to use strategies in the class. We use some of the breathing strategies during transition times as well. So before and after, moving from a different space in the school, even just between activities in the class, that has definitely helped. Another piece of this has really helped with what is working with students with recess conflicts. So a lot of students talk about, feeling frustrated at recess, getting in a conflict, of feeling angry or sad, all these big feelings. And it's having the language from Educalme has definitely helped me to help students to identify their emotions, bring them back to a space where they're ready to listen and solve the problem, and then to go ahead and to execute and to help them. I'm trying to think if there's anything else. Yeah, and I think the Educalme has also, taken me to some other types of social emotional learning as well, other programs or ways of responding to the students' needs. So that has been helpful as well as I'm looking to, just consider the whole child, all the things that they need, and looking for the best resources, the best tools, the best strategies. Yeah.
So my next question for you is kind of take us through what you're seeing your students develop through the course of the year. So what's changing in your students as they're practicing Educalme, say from September till mid-year until June?
Oh, I was so hoping you would ask a question like this. So I am seeing, I love to see the students apply the different strategies. So I actually asked some of my students kind of when they use their strategies. Right now, being kind of midway through the year, a lot of students talked a lot about using it in their home life or with their friends or at recess. That was for sure the most popular thing. So, being in a conflict with someone, feeling like when they're playing a game even and things aren't going very well, when something doesn't go their way, they don't get a specific item or toy or food or something that they want, when they're feeling teased or they feel kind of left out, when they feel annoyed by another student. So that is a huge increase from the beginning of the year, is that students are saying when they're using it. At the beginning of the year, we kind of talked about when would be a good time, but now they're actually able to say, oh, well, I use this, when I was in an argument with a friend. I used this breathing strategy when I was in an argument with a friend at recess. Or I told my mom about this strategy because we were having a difficult conversation. So that's been really great. I'm starting to see it more in the school learning and helping them with when they're actually in their academics. So that's something that even in other years when I've done Educalme and mindfulness programming, that piece seems to come a little bit later for whatever reason. So talking to the students about using it when they don't know how to spell words, when they're reading, another huge one that comes up is when they make a mistake and feeling like, oh no, I've made this huge mistake, using a breathing strategy to kind of come back to their body and be prepared to continue on, so that way they can think clearly and move past the mistake or make any changes that they need. I've seen this also when students are working on their social emotional learning in the class. So practicing, thinking before speaking and raising their hand. Just a lot of those things in grade 2 that we are working on.
Yeah.
So that's a big piece of that. So that's kind of how I see it working throughout the years. I see a lot of implementation at home or socially, and then through the year academically as it goes. The other great thing that I've seen for the students in their growth is their ability to apply it in a situation that they're having particular difficulty with. So I have had a practice where I've made individual contracts with students when they're working on a specific learning behavior. And I ask them, okay, we're working on whatever behavior it might be. And I'll say, okay, what are the strategies that you're going to use to either make sure that you do what you need to do or that you avoid the specific learning behavior? And every time without fail, a breathing strategy will come up every single time, which is so great. And I've done this with many students now, and it comes up every time. And even kind of related to the mindfulness is, and a lot of times the audio, there's different ways of talking to yourself, and that kind of self-talk has also come out. So while the breathing strategies I feel like are very concrete and clear, they know how to practice them, the 5-finger breathing or the flower petal breathing, also those self-talk pieces are coming out, which is super great.
That's really cool. We actually added the positive self-talk unit because we were getting so many requests from teachers saying that, my students are really struggling with negative self-talk, and I'm not sure how to teach them how to really get them to change that negative thinking. So I'm really glad that we get that great feedback from teachers and we can keep creating things that are really useful in the classroom. So that's great to hear that you're seeing students really use what they're learning from that unit. So I'd love to know, have you noticed Educalme Classroom making a difference in your students learning to self-regulate?
I would say absolutely. Again, going back to the breathing strategies, because we're doing the formal practice on a mostly daily basis, the students are getting the practice that they need. So when something comes up and their emotions are heightened for whatever reason, and they're struggling to self-regulate because we formally taught it, they're able to pull from those pieces a little bit faster, which is great. So even with some students, I have kind of these secret signals that we have come up with when I notice that they're they need to move, they want to call out, whatever the behavior might be. And if we can have a signal and it just gives them that reminder, oh, I need to breathe, I need to try this. So having those strategies available ahead of time has been very helpful because then they know about it and then it's already a tool ready to go. I've also seen the ability to name the emotion quickly, just de-escalate some of the difficulties that students have when they're trying to self-regulate. If I find that if they can identify, I'm mad because I made a mistake or I'm disappointed in myself, then instead of, crumpling the paper, yelling out, whatever that outburst might be, if they can identify the emotion first because they practiced doing it in the practice, then it definitely brings down some of the unregulated behaviors in the class. I've seen this work particularly for students who might have a sudden outbursts. I've seen this for students who are working on calling out. Students in a large amount of many students who are working on moving past mistakes and how that feels when you make a mistake and then working on that behavior.
That's great. Thank you so much for sharing that. So I'd love to know now, as someone who has been doing Educalme Classroom for a couple of years now, what advice would you have for a teacher that's thinking of starting to use this program?
I think just start wherever you're at and with whatever piece seems most appealing to you. For me, I remember starting and my projector speakers weren't working great at the time. And I was like, but I want to start now. And there were some readable, mindfulness practice pieces that you could read with your students. So I actually started a little bit with that. And I remember doing that. And that was just something that was comfortable. I could do it. It was good. And then moving into the posters and looking at the breathing strategies, having them available in and outside the classroom, having them available for families. That was something that's, and then moving into using the daily practice. So just starting a little bit at a time. You don't have to adopt it all at once, all right now. You can take it a little bit, and as you feel more comfortable, add in more.
That's great. I love that. And that's something that we always like to say too, in Educalme Classroom, there's a lot of great tools in there, but each person, each teacher needs to take what feels right for them and use it in a way that feels right for them. Teachers are such creative people. And so everyone's going to take these resources and use them in their own way. And, you are the expert in your classroom. You know your students the best. So it's up to you to make the decision of what tool is going to be the most useful for you and your students. And I like that you said start small, because it can always feel when you're trying something new that you need to do it all at once. But just starting even with one audio per week or whatever that looks like, little baby steps is eventually going to get you to the point where you feel more comfortable adopting more or just staying and using it the way that you're using it.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. Is there anything else that you'd like to say before we end?
I think I've just been very impressed with how my students are working to adapt it in their lives. I know even in our class, some of the students have wanted to make like a little calm corner book where they actually have some of the breathing strategies in there. And I know I checked in with students from other years and they've done similar things at home, which has been super great. I love also hearing about how they're sharing the practice or things that they're learning about themselves through the practice with their families, and families are having conversations. So it's not just staying about the 1 minute time in the classroom so that way we can hold it together for the afternoon. These are building skills for their life that they're going to use all through their learning, their academic career, and then when they move on from that, and in their social and personal lives too. So yes, the program is made for young people, and that's great. But to learn the basis of these skills now, and then when they move forward, that they'll be prepared to take on new learning and new challenges because they have these skills and they've learned them.
That's awesome. Thank you so much for being here with us today. We really appreciate hearing about your experience and getting your ideas that we can share with the community so that they can feel a little bit more comfortable getting started with this in their own classroom. So thank you so, so much.
Absolutely. Thank you. And I've learned so much from the podcast. So thank you to both of you and to all your guests. I've learned a lot. So a lot of these pieces are informed by others. So thank you very much too.
Oh yeah, you're welcome. We love our Educalme community. Everyone in this community is just amazing.
So good.
That was Awesome. Don't you just love hearing what other teachers are doing in their classrooms? It always sparks new ideas, gets that creativity rolling. And we are so excited to see how you bring what you've learned from Sara and her experience into your own classroom. Your exit ticket for today is to sign up for the Educalme Classroom free trial if you haven't already. Go to educalme.com/free. So that's EDUCALME/free. Now, when you do that, you're going to get access to the first unit of Educalme Classroom, which is called Introduction to Mindfulness. This is going to give you 2-minute and 5-minute audios to practice mindfulness with your students so you can start small. There's also posters in there, a little activity, student reflection booklets, and a lesson plan so you can dive right in and start a daily practice using this program. Or like Sara said, just take it small and take the piece that feels comfortable for you now, test it out, see how it feels, and then go with the flow. So again, go to educalme.com/free to sign up for the free trial, which is going to give you access to the first unit of our program, and it's also going to give you access to training for you on how to use this. So you'll get a nice little training video emailed to you, and it's also included in your member area so that you can kind of get a quick little training on how to use this so that you can feel really comfortable getting started with it in your classroom. No matter where you are at in your journey of mindfulness, we are so honored to be a part of it. We appreciate this community so much. Every single time we meet one of you, connect with you, we have the best conversations and our heart just feels so full. So thank you for being part of this community. And if you enjoyed this episode, share it with a friend or a colleague that you think would enjoy it too. Have a wonderful week.